The rain softened overnight, leaving the world washed and hushed. She stayed longer than she meant to, I think. Or maybe she wanted to. The clock ticked loud between us. I made tea, nervous hands fumbling with cups, and she smiled when I spilled a drop. "You always were clumsy," she teased, but her voice carried a warmth that wasn't there before. We sat across from each other at the small table. The light above hummed faintly, making everything feel intimate, too close. "Does he know you're here?" I asked carefully. Her gaze flickered to the ring still resting on the windowsill. She didn't answer right away. "He doesn't keep track of where I go anymore," she finally said. Then softer, "I don't keep track of him either." I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. She wasn't just my mom's friend. She was someone's wife. And yet, here she was, drinking tea in my kitchen, her eyes refusing to meet mine. She shifted in her chair. "Your mom used to tell me everything about you. How you never liked crowds, how you spent hours drawing in your room." I laughed lightly, embarrassed. "She tells everyone that." "Not everyone," she countered. "She told me because she thought I'd understand." I tilted my head. "Did you?" Her lips curved, but her eyes were sad. "Too well." I didn't push. Something in her tone told me there was more. Loneliness, maybe. A marriage that had become a quiet prison. I wanted to ask, but the words stuck. Instead, I said, "And what about you? You never talk about yourself." Her fingers traced the rim of her cup. "There's not much to say. Try me." A pause. Then, "I got married too young. Thought love would solve everything. But sometimes love just turns into habit." I heard the tremor in her voice. She wasn't talking to me, she was talking to herself, confessing something she hadn't dared put into words. I leaned forward before I could stop myself. "And now?" Her eyes lifted, meeting mine across the table. Vulnerable. Searching. "Now I don't know what I'm looking for anymore." The room felt too small for the weight of what she'd said. My chest ached with the urge to reach across, to hold her hand, to promise something I wasn't even sure I could. Instead, I muttered, "Maybe you've already found it." The words slipped out before I could reel them back. Her breath caught. For a long moment, she didn't move. Then, slowly, she reached out, her fingertips brushing mine on the table. The contact was light, barely there, but it sent a rush through me that I couldn't disguise. We sat there, hands almost touching, silence thick with everything we weren't saying. Then suddenly, the sound of the front door unlocking shattered the moment. We both froze. She was just my mom's friend. Until she closed the door. The sound of the key turning in the front door hit us like thunder. She snatched her hand back from mine so quickly the teacup rattled. My pulse spiked, panic rushing through me. Only one person had a key to that door besides me, my mother. "Quick!" she whispered, her eyes darting toward the windowsill where her ring still rested. She grabbed it, slipped it back onto her finger with trembling hands, and smoothed her hair in one frantic motion. By the time Mom stepped inside, she looked perfectly composed, like nothing had happened. But I couldn't hide it. My chest was tight, my palms damp, every nerve screaming. Mom set down her purse and umbrella, shaking rain from her shawl. "Oh, you're here already," she said brightly, spotting her friend. Then she turned to me, smiling. "I hope you were a good host while I was gone." I forced a laugh. "Yeah, of course." My voice cracked. The two women hugged, exchanging the familiar warmth of long friendship. I stood there useless, watching them, knowing a secret lived in the room now, one Mom could never imagine. The evening unfolded as it usually did when Mom had company. Chatter in the living room, snacks on the table, a TV humming in the background. I tried to act normal, but my eyes kept straying to her. She avoided looking at me directly. But in small ways, her pause before laughing at Mom's joke, her hand lingering just a second too long on the glass she held, I felt her unease. Or maybe it was mine reflected back at me. I excused myself, retreating to my room. I needed space to breathe. But not 10 minutes later, a soft knock came at my door. I froze. Then, cautiously, "Yeah?" The door opened just a crack, and she slipped inside. My mother's voice floated faintly from the living room. She was on the phone, distracted. "She'll be busy for a few minutes," she whispered. "I just wanted to check if you're all right." "I should be asking you that," I murmured. Her eyes softened. "I'm fine. I've done this before." She stopped herself, biting her lip, then added quickly, "I mean, I've hidden things before. From people who trust me." The confession twisted something in me. A pang of jealousy, maybe. Or fear. "Do you regret it?" I asked quietly. Her gaze dropped to the floor. "Sometimes. Sometimes not." The room shrank around us again. She took a step closer. My breath hitched. Before anything could happen, Mom's laughter echoed from the living room, snapping the spell. She straightened, smoothed her blouse, and gave me a look that was half warning, half longing. "We can't," she whispered before slipping out again. But the way her eyes lingered told me she didn't believe her own words. The night ended eventually. She hugged Mom goodbye at the door, her ring firmly on her finger again, her voice steady. When she turned to me, though, her smile faltered. For just a second, her hand brushed mine as she took her bag. A spark. Quick, deliberate, gone in an instant. And then she was out in the rain, her umbrella bobbing down the street until the darkness swallowed her. I lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling. Every detail replayed, the ring on the windowsill, the brush of her fingers, the whispered, "This stays between us." Sleep came late and restless. Days passed. I tried to bury the memory under routine, classes, errands, meaningless conversations. But it clung to me. I thought of her constantly, the curve of her smile, the sadness in her eyes. Then one night it happened. My phone buzzed past midnight. A message. "Are you awake?" It was her. I stared at the screen, heart hammering. Then I typed back. "Yeah." The dots appeared, typing, pausing, typing again. Finally. "Can I call?" Before I could answer, her name lit up my screen. I swiped without thinking. "Hello?" My voice was a whisper. On the other end, silence. Then a shaky breath. "I shouldn't be doing this," she said. "But I can't stop thinking about that night." Neither could I. Her voice was softer than I'd ever heard it. Vulnerable. She told me pieces of herself she hadn't told anyone in years. How her marriage had become a cage. How she felt invisible in her own home. How loneliness had been eating her alive long before she ever set foot in mine. "And then," she whispered, "there was you. Sitting across from me. Looking at me like I was someone worth seeing again." I swallowed hard. "You are." Silence stretched, thick and fragile. "Say it again," she murmured. "You are," I repeated. "You always were." Her breath caught. For a moment I thought she might cry, but then her tone shifted, softer, needier. "I don't know what we're doing," she said. "But I don't want it to end here." The line hummed between us, filled with everything unspoken. And then, before I could stop myself, I asked, "When can I see you?" A long pause. Then, "Tomorrow," she whispered. "I'll find a way." The call ended. I sat in the dark, heart racing, knowing tomorrow would cross a line we couldn't uncross. And yet, I wanted it more than anything. Cliffhanger. The next day, as promised, she arrived. But this time, she didn't come for my mom. She came when she knew only I would be home. She closed the door behind her, locking it. And then she turned to face me. She turned slowly, her back against the closed door, rain still dripping from her umbrella onto the mat. Her chest rose and fell quickly, as though the simple act of stepping into this house without my mother present had stolen her breath. "You're alone?" she asked. I nodded. My voice caught before I managed to speak. "Yeah. Just me." Her eyes lingered on me in a way they never had before, open, unguarded, like she wasn't my mother's friend anymore but simply a woman standing in my hallway, holding a secret between her palms. She set the umbrella aside, slipped off her sandals. Each small action felt deliberate, heavier than it should have. By the time she stepped toward me, I could feel my pulse thundering in my ears. We ended up in the kitchen, though neither of us was hungry. The same table where her fingers had brushed mine sat between us, but this time she didn't take the chair opposite. She slid into the one beside me. The air tightened. "You shouldn't be here," I whispered. Her lips curved, not in amusement but in pain. "I know." "Then why?" She turned her face toward me, eyes glistening. "Because I can't stop myself." Her honesty disarmed me. I searched her face for hesitation, but all I found was fear tangled with longing. "I haven't felt alive like this in years," she admitted. "And it scares me. Because you—" She broke off, shaking her head. "Because I'm younger," I finished for her. Her hand twitched on the table, inching closer to mine. "Because you're your mother's son." The words slammed into me like a confession. She wasn't just worried about age, or her marriage, it was the bond with my mother that made this dangerous. That made it taboo. But still, she hadn't left. I leaned forward, lowering my voice to a near whisper. "Do you regret that night?" Her eyes snapped to mine. "No." "Do you?" "Not for a second." Our gazes held. The silence stretched, quivering with the question neither of us wanted to ask but both of us felt. Her fingers brushed mine again, tentative. This time, I didn't just let them linger. I turned my hand, lacing my fingers through hers. She gasped softly, a sound caught between fear and relief. "You don't know what this could do," she murmured. "I don't care," I said, and it was the truth. Her hand squeezed mine, fragile but desperate. We stayed like that for a long while, holding on as though the touch alone was keeping us from falling apart. She told me pieces of herself she'd hidden away, the loneliness of coming home to silence, the weight of pretending in front of friends, the way her husband had grown more distant with every year. I told her things I'd never told my mother, how I felt stuck in between boyhood and manhood, how I was tired of being treated like a child. "Maybe that's why I notice you differently," she whispered. "Because you're not a boy anymore." And I couldn't look away. The air between us thickened. Every glance, every word, pulled us closer to something we couldn't undo. At one point, she rose from her chair, pacing, torn between the door and me. I followed, standing inches away. "This is wrong," she said, her voice trembling. "Then stop me," I answered. She didn't. Instead, she looked at me like she wanted to memorize every detail of my face. "I've dreamed of moments like this," she confessed, "but never believed I'd actually feel them again." Her hand lifted, hovering near my cheek. She didn't touch me, not yet, but the ghost of the gesture sent fire through me. "You're shaking," I whispered. "So are you," she breathed back. The tension was unbearable. We both leaned in, too close, dangerously close. I could feel her breath mingling with mine, her lips parting as if to say something, or maybe to do something neither of us could take back. Then, all at once, a sharp knock rattled the front door. We jerked apart, hearts pounding. "Who?" I began, but she pressed a finger to her lips, eyes wide. The knock came again, harder this time. A man's voice called out. "Are you in there?" Her face strained of color. I didn't need to ask who it was. Her husband. She looked at me, panic written across her features. I grabbed her hand instinctively, holding it tight. "What do we do?" I whispered. She shook her head, eyes brimming with fear and something else, resolve. "Stay quiet," she mouthed. "Please." We stood frozen in the hallway, hearts racing, the knock echoing again and again. And then, as quickly as it had started, the sound stopped. Silence. We both waited, barely breathing, until finally, footsteps faded down the street. She sagged against the wall, her hand clutching mine like a lifeline. Her body trembled. "I can't keep doing this," she whispered, tears catching in her throat. But I also can't let go. I pulled her closer without thinking, my arms wrapping around her. She didn't resist. She melted into me, burying her face in my chest, breathing unevenly. For the first time, she allowed herself to cry. And for the first time, I realized I would do anything to keep her from breaking again. Cliffhanger. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out, eyes widening at the name on the screen. Her husband had sent a message. We need to talk. Tomorrow. She showed me the screen with trembling fingers. I looked at her. She looked at me. And we both knew tomorrow would change everything.